of parents want to set their kids up for success, right? Most of them don't realize that they can set their kids up to be decamillionaires by the time they retire, completely tax-free. And we were actually, Jenny and I
That's
were,
crazy. My kids are adults now. Where were you 30 years ago?
right? Yeah, so we were actually going to title this episode The $23 million Baby Blueprint, because that's the real math that we're going to dive into. But we figured no one would believe it. So we stuck with the $8 million baby blueprint, and we'll show that math too. So on that note, welcome to the Bucks Outside the Box show, where we challenge conventional money wisdom, get a little contrarian, and try to think outside the box. So let's dive right in and talk through how this strategy works. We'll go through the high level concept first, and then we'll dig into the math behind it. So imagine you have a baby and you never want them to have to worry about retirement. How could you set them up to be a decamillionaire by the time they are age 60? And the answer is you create a Roth IRA for them and you contribute to it for them on their behalf while they are a child. Now, there's a
Well,
caveat.
that's cool.
Yeah. So, and a quick refresher, with a Roth IRA, you don't get an immediate tax deduction for the money you contribute to it, but the money compounds tax free in that account. And then the beneficiary of the account, the owner of the account, doesn't owe any taxes on withdrawals in retirement, right? So after age 59 and a half, they can pull out the money tax free for retirement. And there are even some cases where you can pull money out before 59 and a half for things like education expenses, a down payment for a house, etc.
Are there limitations?
Yeah, there are limitations on that outside the scope of this episode. But you can look up those limitations online or talk to your financial planner about them. So anyway, Roth IRA, tax-free compounding, tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Now, here's the catch: you can only contribute as much as you earn to a Roth IRA up to an annual limit of $7,500, at least in 2026 when we're recording this. That limit, that $7,500 limit, increases over time, of course. But you have to have earned income to be able to contribute to your Roth IRA. So your baby, your infant, or 5-year-old, or 10-year-old, or 15-year-old, may not have earned income. So how do you, or, the average infant doesn't have earned income, right? So how do you get around that? What's the solution to that problem? Is, of course, you pay them. you pay them income.
So this is an allowance.
Well, it could be an allowance, but so a tip of the hat here to venture capitalist Jenny Stokovic for inspiring this episode. She gave this interesting explanation online about how she hired her baby to be a model for
Wow.
her social media business, so that her son, who was an infant, would have earned income with the IRS. He files a tax return with the IRS,
That's
and
crazy.
now she can contribute that money to his Roth IRA. She can set up a Roth IRA for him because he has earned income, even though he's 6 months old, and then can contribute that income to his Roth IRA so that it will compound over time. And in 6 decades from now, he's going to have millions upon millions
Mm.
upon millions of dollars that he can pull out tax free. So
Wow. I mean, look what you can do if you're creative. That's
exactly. And of course, you don't need to have a social media business to do this, or you can create one even if it doesn't earn a ton of money, and you can pay your child. So my daughter just turned 6. I have not done this for her yet. We are in the process of setting this up for her. We're going to be paying her for housework. Maybe I will even pay her as an assistant, for myself, for our business. Don't worry, Denny, I will not use company money for that. Uh, but yeah, I will. We're setting that up right now to be able to start paying her so that she has an earned income, and we can shuffle all that money directly into her Roth IRA so that she's set for life. And again,
Now, could you do that with grandchildren as well, or do they just have to be your direct offspring?
no, you can do this with anybody. Anyone who you're paying, their income can be contributed to a Roth IRA.
Very cool.
And again, with Roth IRAs, it's not just for retirement. You can also pull money from that account for things like a down payment on a house and education and so forth. So it's super flexible for your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, etc. Okay, let's jump through the actual math of this. So, current cap, again, $7,500 a year is the maximum that someone can contribute to a Roth IRA, or the, the amount that they have as earned income, right? So it's the lower of those two, either your total earned income or $7,500, the lower of those two. So you can pay your child up to $7,500 a year currently to contribute to your their Roth IRA. That comes out to $625 a month. If you contribute $625 a month to their Roth IRA from the time they are born until they reach 18, they would have 600 or I'm sorry, $368,792 by their 18th birthday if they're earning a 10% annualized return. And by the way, we didn't make that number up. That is the average return of the S&P 500 for over the last 100 years, since 1926, when the S&P was first created. And at that point, it was not the S&P 500; it was just the S&P. It had 50 stocks, 90 stocks in it originally. I think it was 90 stocks in it originally. I can't remember. And then over time, that grew to 500. But anyway, 100 years of data, average annualized return is around 10%. It fluctuates 10, 10 and a half, as the market moves up and down. But so at that historical average return, if you just invested that money in an S&P 500 index fund, 10% annualized return, by the time they turned 18, they would have almost $370,000.
Now, can you set this up so they can't just go in there and pull it out and do whatever?
No, it's their money, it's their account.
Okay.
But so that's the first segment of this account is their childhood, during which you're contributing $625 a month throughout their childhood. Then they turn 18. And let's imagine for a moment that they never contribute another cent to the account. They never save another cent for retirement. But the money continues compounding over the course of the next 42 years
So how much?
until they reach age 60. And again, we're imagining that it's a 10% return over the entire 60 years. They would have $23,355,598.
23 million.
Over $23 million
Wow.
by the time they turn 60. Now, that yeah, it's a huge number, right? I mean, decamillionaire. They're tens of millions of dollars. Now, that does require that you start when they're born and contribute the full $7,500, each year until they turn 18. And, it assumes that they don't touch the money, but that they also don't contribute anymore either, between
Okay.
turning 18 and turning 60. Now,
So if they get jobs as they get older and whatnot, and they contribute, that's even going to be up.
yes, exactly.
Wow.
And yeah, so that money will just grow even further if they are contributing themselves to their own retirement account. And again, this is tax free. Money they pull out for retirement, they never have to pay Uncle Sam. Okay, let's say that they don't earn 10% annualized returns. Let's say that they earn 8% annualized returns. How does that change the math? So when they turn 18 and you stop contributing to the account, they would have almost $300,000 at 8% returns. They would have $296,357 in the account by the time they turn 18 when you stop contributing and they take over the account. Now, if they don't touch that money again and don't contribute any more money from age 18 to age 60, they would have over $8 million in the account. They would have $8,253,612 by the time they turned 60. At an 8% return. So that's where the title of this episode, of course, comes in. The $8 million baby blueprint. That is assuming that lower 8% return as opposed to the historical average 10% that the S&P 500 has returned. Now, let's have even more fun with this. What if they are investing in real estate and they earn more than 10% returns?
Well, that's right, because a lot of our club members do that with IRAs.
That's right. So, if you're not familiar with Denny and me, we run the Co-Investing Club. It's an investment club that meets every month, sometimes twice a month. And we vet private real estate investments together, and then we go in on them together as a club. So each member can invest $2,500 or more in any of these investments. But collectively, we'll invest much more than that. So we'll hit the minimum investment for these private placement real estate investments that normally require $50,000 to $100,000 minimum investment. And these real estate investments that we look at and we vet together in our investment club, they typically target returns in the mid-teens or higher. So 14, 15, 16% or higher annualized returns. But let's keep the math a little lower than that. So I ran the numbers at 12% average annualized returns. So if you contribute from the time your child is born until they turn 18, $7,500 a year, $625 a month, at 12% returns, when they turn 18, they would have almost $500,000. They would have $462,501 when they turn 18. And then, again, if they don't contribute anymore and don't pull money out between age 18 and 60, they would have, you ready, Denny, with the drum roll?
Yes.
They would have $66 million, $338,619 at age 60 to withdraw tax-free in retirement. Again, that's at a
Wow.
12% annualized return.
I wish I was listening to this when I was having my kids.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, and the way that you can invest in private placement real estate investments, like the stuff that we do, some of that is like silent partnerships, JV partnerships with operators. Some of it is private notes. Some of it is real estate syndications. Some of it is real estate funds. These are the kinds of things that we look at together in our co-investing club every month as a club, as an investing group. Or you can invest in rentals if that's your thing. But either way, the way that you would do this is with a self-directed IRA. And of course, there's a Roth option for a self-directed IRA. So that's how this would work if you were investing in real estate instead of in index funds for your child or for yourself, for that.
Now, would you say that it's ever too late?
No. I mean, it's never too late to invest for your own retirement, right? Until you actually retire. And even then, a lot of people keep working to just delay taking money out of their retirement accounts. Or to keep that structure in their day and that sense of fulfillment and meaning and that social interaction and so forth. My dad's in his 70s and he still works full time. So, I mean, there's anyone can do this with a Roth IRA. The younger you are, the more sense it makes to use a Roth
Right.
IRA instead of a traditional IRA. I mean, with the extreme example being your child who doesn't really owe income taxes, right? They don't earn enough money to really pay income taxes. So there's no benefit to them to have a deduction for what they're contributing to the account. But having that money compound tax-free over many decades so they can pull it out tax-free in retirement, that is pure gold. That's awesome. That's the ticket, right? Now, a few final thoughts here. This math that we use, that assumed $7,500 a year in contributions for the next 18 years. That number obviously is going to go up, right? I mean, Congress raises that limit every couple. So, over time, you will be able to contribute more money to your child's Roth IRA if you want to. So that's part of that's one of the assumptions here that, is we just use that for simplicity, but you will be able to contribute more than that $625 a month if you wanted to.
Now, if you have more than one child, you can do it for each child,
Of
correct?
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It takes more money on your part. All right. But yeah, absolutely. You can do this for each of your children. Now, the
But
earlier,
it's like when I grew up, we always were taught you got to put money aside for college, and it would sit in a savings account, getting nothing basically.
losing money to inflation every year. It's
Right.
actually it's worse than nothing. You're having a loss every year due to inflation. And inflation at last check was 4.1%. It was more than double the Fed's target of 2%. So yeah, inflation is super insidious. You don't want to leave money just sitting around in cash, other than a couple of strategic things like an emergency reserve,
Right.
that sort of thing. And of course, your operating account, your checking that you're just spending month in and month out for your operating.
Right. Operation and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. All right. So the earlier you start with this, the better, right? But even if your child is 6 years old, like mine, or 10 or 14 or whatever, start now. I mean, the Chinese proverb goes, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now." So
I love that.
yeah, I mean, start now. If it's fine that you didn't do this when they were born, right? Almost no parents do, but it's not too late to start. So start this now with your kids, and the older your
Or
kids are,
grandkids.
or grandkids. Yeah, there you go. And the older they are, the less creative you have to get in the reason you're paying them, right? Like a baby, like modeling for social media it's the only thing I can think of for like paying a baby, right? I mean, there's probably a couple other things you could do, but as your kids get older, you can pay them for real work, whether you own a business or around the house or whatever. As an assistant, you just get creative with it. And this illustrates the math that we just ran here between how much they would have at age 60. So at 8% returns, they'd have around $8 million. At 10% returns, they'd have over $23 million. At 12% returns, they would have over $66 million. And the point is being here that small differences in your returns can compound to make huge differences in your final amount, your final nest egg over time, right? Like when we're talking about decades, like even small differences in returns makes an enormous difference. So
And could you not, like, would you do this with your daughter? Could you not use this as like a learning lesson on how to handle money and whatnot?
yeah, no question. And it's what you want to do, right? You want to use this as a learning demonstration for them, teaching them about saving and investing and compound interest, compound returns, tax strategies like Roth IRAs. I mean, how to
Teach in school.
yeah, exactly. How to open a brokerage account and an IRA and all that stuff, how to move money between accounts, how to set up automations and using robo advisors. Yeah, there are endless financial lessons that you can teach your child using even just this one strategy. So, if you want to run the numbers yourself using a compound returns calculator, you can check out investor.gov, free website from the federal government. And yeah, come check out our co-investing club, by the way, if you do want to earn those higher returns, that we look at every month, different deals, different geographical markets, debt, equity, different operators, all that good stuff. Denny, anything you want to add before we call this episode complete?
I just love this. And I think that being creative is the way to go because you're helping your children, yourself, and yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, if you got something out of this episode, pass it on to someone else and subscribe to the show for more awesomeness every week. And if you didn't get anything out of this episode, then let us know. Support at sparkroth.com. Let us know what you want to hear more of, less of, etc. moving forward. And if you're curious about how private real estate investments work, passive real estate investments, we have a free course that just walks you through some examples. Some of those things we talked about earlier, like syndications or private JV partnerships, private notes, etc. Sparkrental.com/free. It's quick, it's punchy, it's 8 videos, and each one of them is like 5 or 10 minutes long. So very quick and easy. On that note, stay weird, unconventional investor.